we'll go ahead and get started. First item is Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Vice Mayor Underhill is on the telephone. He's at a conference this week, and he's kind enough to call in. So we'll go ahead and get started. Public comment. Is there any public comment tonight? No public comment. Move on to consent agenda. Are there any questions or concerns?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion respond by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Now we have some special presentations.
There's no privacy on it, so.
Anyone from the Juneteenth committee here tonight? Nope. First item is the Juneteenth City Proclamation for Junction City, Kansas. Whereas President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, declaring the slaves of the Confederate territory free, paving the way for the signing of the 13th Amendment, which formally abolished slavery in the United States of America. And whereas word about the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation was delayed some 2.5 years to June 19th, 1865, and reaching authorities and African Americans in the South and Southwestern United States. And whereas Emancipation Day observations are held on different days in different states in the South and Southwest and in other parts of the nation. And whereas June 19th has a special meaning to African Americans and is called Juneteenth, combining the words June and 19th, and has been celebrated by the African American community for over 150 years. And whereas the annual Juneteenth celebration in the city of Junction City will take place at Heritage Park on June 7th and 8th, 2019. Now therefore, I, Pat Landis, Mayor of the City of Junction City, do hereby declare June 8th, 2019 as Juneteenth in the City of Junction City, and to urge all citizens to become more aware of the significance of this celebration in African American history and the heritage of our nation and city. No one here tonight on the committee? No? Very well. Okay, we'll move on to our next proclamation. We have a good crew here tonight for this one.
No?
Proclamation declaring the first Friday in June to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day. This proclamation declares the first Friday in June to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the city of Junction City, to honor and remember all victims and survivors of gun violence, and to declare that we as a country must do more to reduce gun violence. Whereas every day 100 Americans are killed by gun violence, and on average there are nearly 13,000 gun homicides every year. And whereas Americans are 25 times more likely to be killed with guns than people in other high-income countries. And whereas protecting public safety in the communities they serve is the mayor's highest responsibility. And whereas support of the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from people with dangerous histories. And whereas mayors and law enforcement officers know their communities best and are most familiar with the local criminal activity and how to address it, and are best positioned to understand how to keep their citizens safe. And whereas in January 2013, Hadiah Pendleton, a teenager who marched in President Obama's second inaugural parade, was tragically shot and killed just weeks later, should now be celebrating her 22nd birthday. And whereas to help honor Hadiah and the 100 Americans whose lives are cut short and the countless survivors who are injured by shootings every day, a national coalition of organizations has designated June 7, 2019, the first Friday in June, as the 5th National Gun Violence Awareness Day. And whereas the idea was inspired by a group of Hadiah's friends who asked their classmates to commemorate her life by wearing orange. They chose this color because hunters wear orange to announce themselves to other hunters when out in the woods, and orange is a color that symbolizes the value of human life. And whereas anyone can help join the campaign by pledging to wear orange on June 7th, the first Friday in June in 2019, to help raise awareness about gun violence. Whereas by wearing orange on June 7, 2019, Americans will raise awareness about gun violence and honor the lives of gun violence victims and survivors. And whereas we renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out of the wrong hands and encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our children safe. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Mayor Pat Landis, City of Junction City, declares the first Friday in June, June 7, 2019, to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day. I encourage all citizens to support their local community's efforts to prevent the tragic events of gun violence and to honor and value human lives. Good stuff.
Did you want to?
That was Mary.
You want to come up?
That was Mary.
Want to come up, please? We appreciate you and all you're doing. It's a tremendous effort. We respect you as well.
How did you make that, David?
Our last proclamation is fair housing, celebrating 51 years of fair housing in Junction City. Whereas the Congress of the United States passed the Civil Rights Act of 1968, of which Title VIII declared that the law of the land would now guarantee the rights of equal housing opportunity, and whereas the City of Junction City is committed to the mission and intent of Congress to provide fair and equal housing opportunities for all, and today many realty companies and associations support fair housing laws, and whereas the fair housing groups of the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development have over the years received thousands of complaints of alleged illegal housing discrimination and found too many that were proved upon investigation to be violations of the fair housing laws. And whereas equal housing opportunity is a condition of life in our city that can and should be achieved, I, Pat Landis, Mayor of the City of Junction City, on behalf of its citizens, do hereby proclaim the month of June as Fair Housing Month and express the hope that this year's observance will promote fair housing practices throughout our city. Hear, hear. Ken, would you want to come up? Wait, Mr. Sands is going to come up first. We already did the proclamation for Juneteenth.
Yes, sir.
Of
Thank
the
you.
committee that which you're on. So
Yes, sir.
appreciate your efforts and everything you're doing. We
We
look forward to the
seeing you
celebration
there.
Saturday.
Thank you.
All right,
Come out and hear some Zydeco.
we'll be
It's
there.
going to be good.
All right.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Jim.
Appreciate it.
Okay, next we'll have a presentation by Mr. and Mrs. Markley about the Opera House summer projects.
And I want to thank the commission for taking time to hear us this evening. We certainly appreciate your support. We have two items that we're going to be working on probably in July at the start of our new fiscal year. I won't read all that because I assume you got it in the packet. Excited about the induction loop. It is a hearing assist program, or hearing assist, what is the system? That's the right word. It allows our patrons who have hearing aids to just tap that T-coil button on their hearing aid and listen to the audio that's being sent to the speakers. So what everybody else is hearing through the speakers will be sent directly to their hearing aids. And of course, because everybody's hearing aid is unique to them, that sound will be mixed just perfect for them. So it's not a new technology, but it's kind of new to get in more places now. And so we have a young man, Corey Fry, who is with Solid Rock Audio and Video. Actually, he's completed 3 courses, or 2, and this month will be completed the other one in Orlando to be certified by the ADA so that he can
Great.
do this. So we're thinking, and it's also unobtrusive. You don't have to have a receiver or put in earbuds, so I just think it's going to be a real nice thing. And actually came about because our patron, one of our patrons said, we'd like this, we've got it in our church, can you do this here? And so.
Very good.
The second thing is we're going to work towards getting a kitchenette in the Montgomery room, the big rehearsal hall, the one with all the mirrors. It would be in this alcove on the Jefferson side here, on the west side. Again, lots of parties up there, and if there's a half glass of wine or water or whether, there's no place to get rid of that. And so we will have water and a drain there, and so it's going to be, I think, a nice addition. Local contractor Randy Helstab is who we've got lined up, along with plumbing and air conditioning man, small plumbing. So I'd be glad to answer any questions you have or concerns about that, but otherwise I won't take up any more of your time.
No action is needed. I mean, they leased the building. I just think it's good for the public to know what, these are not city dollars either. And these are dollars that have been raised at other sources, donations, and improvements being made to enhance really a great place in our community.
We have a sign in the lobby or for other patrons that have hearing aids so that they can utilize. You may not know about it yet, but
When it's all said and done, we've got several things, because our volunteers have to be trained on that too,
Okay.
as well, just to inform people, as well as a sheet that says, hey, this is what you need to do.
Okay.
Because it is possible for a person to have a hearing aid that is compatible and will work with that, but if the audiologist hasn't turned that feature on, it doesn't work. So we may say, hey, this may not work for you tonight, but you go to see them.
get it programmed. Okay,
But yes, education is a part of that.
good.
And in the meantime, they'll be using the hearing assist that we already have. So, we're
Yeah,
waiting for
it
that.
doesn't eliminate that.
That's terrific.
And I just wanted to add to our presentation that around the world, the D-Day is coming up, the 75th anniversary, and we have been contacted, the Opera House specifically, by the National Medal of Honor Museum. And because Junction City has a recipient, Walter Ehlers, who received the Medal of Honor on D-Day. They have
One of 13.
One of 13. They are contacting those, 13 places so that we will simultaneously have a ringing of our clock tower. And so on Thursday at 1 o'clock, we're not really having an official ceremony as such, but we are going to be ringing the clock 13 times, and we wanted you to know that the clock is not broken. But that is what it's for. So just wanted to make you aware. And I think the more awareness that we have of that, I think it's just a cool recognition. So
Very good.
Thank you.
thank you.
all.
Thank you all.
Okay, our next item. A presentation by the Flint Hills Metropolitan Planning Organization on street improvement demonstration pilot project.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, we've got a presentation by the Flint Hills MPO on a street improvement demonstration pilot program. With me is Jared Tremblay with the MPO. What we have here is the City of Junction City, Livewell, Garrett County, and the Flint Hills Metropolitan Organization are set to launch several short-term, low-cost, and active transportation demonstration projects, the first of which will be deployed at the intersection of 7th Street and Jefferson Street. These demonstration projects provide temporary street improvements intended to increase safety and enhance the community through the installation of curb extensions, pedestrian islands. These features shorten the crossing distance while maintaining the standard lane widths for vehicles. Using demonstration projects such as the public technique used in Kansas is currently the Department of Kansas of Transportation, the Kansas Division of Federal Highways Administration are allowing the Flint Hills MPO to be the pilot organization for this interactive and innovative public engagement strategy. The MPO has completed similar projects in Manhattan with great success, and the MPO staff anticipates the same project identified in Junction City. So with that, I will have Jared go ahead and present the project.
Thanks, Ray. Good evening, Commission. Again, my name is Jared Tremblay, and we're going to talk very briefly just to give you a visual to go with what you just heard. And so we've started a new thing with Live Well Geary County called Bike Walk JC. It's a hashtag you're going to be seeing all over. And so, a little background here. In 2017, the MPO, along with the City of Manhattan, worked on a bicycle master plan. We used GIS to identify potential connections, and we looked at road widths, ADT, speed limits, parking, those sorts of things to find good connections that are safe and don't interfere with traffic. So here it is. It's difficult to see at this scale, but it is available on our website. There's a lot of purple, green lines on there, pink lines. It's hard to see here, but I will note that the TA project about to kick off in the next month or so is one of the items that was identified on this. And the hope here is to do more of these sorts of projects. And the goal of it is really just to have a document that you can use to allow for active, healthy, and an active community and active transportation. All these things really go together hand in hand. And with this document, the goal is to leverage different funding mechanisms like the TA. So there's that document. Our hope is that it doesn't sit there on a shelf unused. And so to move things along, we've set up a steering committee. It's made up of 10 members across the community, business, citizens, city government, parks, those sorts of things, as well as Live Well Geary County members. And the goal is to identify opportunities and obstacles that aren't easily identifiable to someone like me on a map, people that know the community and know needs. And so we're going to be meeting regularly throughout this process. And here we come to demonstration projects. So like I mentioned, a lot of times these plans are formed. There's not funding to implement them right away. They sit on a shelf. Nothing ever happens. So there's this new thing going around called tactical urbanism. We're calling it demonstration projects. And as Mr. Ibarra said, they are low-cost, temporary ways of testing new ideas, layouts of streets, because we all know concrete is very expensive and will be there for decades, so we might as well test things out while we can on the cheap. And the idea, of course, is to improve safety without hindering traffic, just to improve the transportation system overall. And the materials we use are reusable, so when we do one project, we will take almost all of those and use them again, and so they're very cost effective. And again, this is just a background here, so the MPO will be doing the planning, and I personally will be helping with the installation. Assuming that you allow us to proceed. The City of Junction City is helping with planning and overviewing the projects, and then Live Well Geary County is really our outreach, as well as our funding through a Blue Cross and Blue Shield grant that we received, which is obviously very important. And as Mr. Barr mentioned, this is a pilot project, and so the MPO with the City of Junction City, hopefully, and with the City of Manhattan, we are doing these as a test, the first real test with planning dollars through the state and federal highway for Kansas. And so far things are going really well. They're happy. We hope to have this be basically a template that the rest of the state can do on the cheap. And so the first project we would like to do is pretty much directly outside here to the west. As you can see, I know it's a little difficult maybe at this scale for you if you don't have it on your laptop, but Jefferson is 60 feet wide, more or less. It's 2 lanes. It has parking on either sides, which usually you calculate 7 to 8 feet. So you're left with 44 feet, basically, for 2 lanes. That is a very wide road. You have crossings here. You have City Hall, the fire department, obviously the Opera House, municipal court here. You have people in the downtown area that are walking. And quite honestly, it's a long crossing. You can actually see on this image here on the right side of it, the curb extensions that were built into downtown. That crossing there is only 30 feet wide. What we're proposing is to take those 44 feet and then add a median pedestrian island in the middle, and that would preserve 2 17-foot road lanes, one going north, one going south. So a pedestrian would only have to cross 1 lane at any one time, looking in one direction. And then again, we'd also like to address the crossing that goes from the parking lot just behind you to the north that goes over to City Hall. It's 60 feet wide. It does not have, it does have parking there as well. We were very mindful of the fire department that is right there making right turns, so we did not put the pedestrian island in there to make sure that they can make those turns. And we kept a fairly wide radius of 15 to 20 feet on those curves as well. And so what this would do is it would really just narrow the crossing down from 60 feet to about 37. When I pulled up this evening, there was a truck sitting right out here, and the pedestrian cross sign was hidden basically behind it, so a pedestrian would have to more or less sneak their head out into traffic. And what this does, it just allows you to daylight. It's very simple, very standard. And so those are the two projects we'd like to do to kick off. And let me show you a different view. So on the top is more or less an existing right-of-way. This two 30-foot lanes, there's no parked cars there. And what we'd like to do is on the bottom, as you can see, we're using something called vertical delineators. We'll get into those in a second. And maybe a little bit of white temporary paint, tempera paint that gets washed away very, very easily. And I will also point out, I mentioned we'd like to do 17-foot lanes. The software program, even at that width, said, hold on, that's not safe, that is too wide, but we don't want to be overzealous. And so I think giving a 10-foot median in the middle is a good compromise for our first project. And the dates we would like to do this, we would like to install on Friday, June 14th, and have it up over the weekend. There's an event at the Opera House that weekend for children. Again, we're not taking away any parking. We're just making the crossing distance shorter, and then we would take it down on Monday. We'd be out there just removing those things. And this is an example project we did in Manhattan last month. Here we used red tempera paint. It was a little more intensive. What we'd like to do is use a little bit of the white striping and then those sticks there. You can see here, it's a very highly used area near Aggieville. We were out and we talked with people that were interacting with it. We'd like to do the same here. The point of these demonstration projects, as much as it is to test these ideas, is to really do outreach with people. It's hard for people to see an image or an aerial image and think, what is that? Is it taking away parking? Is it going to make it harder to drive? And the answer is always no, but when people either drive through them or they walk through them, they get a much better sense of what we're talking about. And that's really what this is about, as well as the outreach. And I will note that the Junction City Blue Jay bus drove through our project over there without any problems. Feel confident we can do the same here. And so that's really all I have for you tonight. We're just looking for your permission to move forward with that. We're not asking for money.
Can I ask you one question?
Please.
Is someone going to be out there collecting some kind of data, or it's just like you said, to put it up so we all can get a feel for?
We will be out there, and we will have probably some sort of, I wouldn't say a survey, but one of the things we'd like to do is to start to build some advocacy, people who are walking or who are interested or want to know about things going on. And so we tend to have pledge cards, and we would have those, and they would say, I've used this, I've experienced it, I like it, I'd like to see more of this is an important project, things of that nature. So it's our best attempt to see how many people are using it and get feedback on it, because we don't have all the answers, but it's just a way for us to gauge that.
Thank you.
I think it's a really good project, looking at public safety. I mean, these are wide streets, and it's, sometimes people scoot along pretty good, even though it's supposed to be 20 miles an hour. They don't quite do that, but
It's not quite
I
designed that
think
way.
it's a good thing.
Great. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners.
Appreciate it. Move on to new business. Consideration of ordinance S 3208, the request for a special use permit to authorize establishment of a tobacco shop in the Central Commercial District in the city of Junction City. Mr.
Mayor
Livingston, welcome.
Landis, Commissioners. This is another request by Mr. Drew De La Fuente, owner of Junction City Tattoo. He's acting as agent on behalf of Terry Hellstabs, the owner of 111 West 7th. They're seeking a special use permit to allow this tobacco shop in an effort to further promote the art feel of the 7th Street corridor. This tobacco shop would be more specifically recognized as what's called a hookah shop or hookah lounge. Mr. De La Fuente came to the Planning Commission meeting, the public hearing last month, and gave a fairly detailed presentation to the commission, and they liked the idea and recommended approval. But his plan is, or his vision, I guess, is to see this more as an upscale social club for people to come in. And I mean, I'm not a smoker, but to enjoy high-end flavored tobaccos, discuss politics, local events, whatever. I see the look on your face. And also let that serve as a venue for live music, trivia nights, things of that nature, just to get a social interaction going for the community members in Junction City. If they were to be able to get this, they have to be licensed by the state as a tobacco shop. That's the only way you can have indoor smoking unless you're a private club. per that license, the state requires that at least 65% of the revenue from that is derived from the direct sale of tobacco and tobacco products from that location. So Mr. De La Fuente has presented that they will sell these flavored, and like I said, I'm not a smoker and I don't know really that much about hookah other than apparently it's catching on. Anyway, the tobacco would be for sale at the shop, in addition to apparently some high-end cigars that he's already got in the stock. No cigarette sales. He's proposed a dress code, hours from 3 till midnight, quit serving at 11 to try to get everybody rounded up and out of the door by midnight. No one under the age of 18 is allowed, obviously, by smoking regulations in the state. He presented it really as a social club. Everybody will have their own individual, these hookah, I don't even know what you call them, hookah pipe, I guess, is a communal pipe. Can have several different apparatus involved. Everybody would have their own disposable tip that they can use. Apparently it's very hygienic. There's no really smoke involved as it goes through the water bath. It's exhaled as water vapor. There's supposedly no odor, no smoke. Right? So, like I said, he gave a very detailed presentation to the commission, and the planning commission really, although we have some older members on the commission, not smokers either, they liked the idea of the social interaction with the community, giving people a place to discuss whether it's politics, events of the day, local politics even, but a calm, serene place to do that. He made a very compelling argument. So they're asking for that special use permit, and this is one of those cases, I think, where I've talked with Mr. Dinkle about special use permits and how they kind of equate to spot zoning, but tobacco shops and hookah lounges are not addressed anywhere in our zoning regulations, so this would certainly be a good use of a special use permit, if there ever was one.
There are apartments above
There
this.
are apartments, and he's contacted the people that live there, and they've had no problems. I reached out and asked them to come to the public hearing. No one chose to come.
I mean, there is a vapor. I mean, that's what you're inhaling. You're not inhaling
Right.
water.
Right.
So
right.
this idea that there is no smell or odor or anything, I mean, I don't buy it.
Well, apparently,
Folks that live there, I mean, to me, it seems like if you're gonna have a place like that, you're gonna have people living upstairs, and you need to have your special ventilation system in there to clear that
Right.
stuff out.
and I mean, you could put that on there as an attachment to the
I don't know,
special
I
use
mean,
permit.
again, I don't know much about it either, but
I really,
just,
this is
you know,
completely new to me.
still have some private clubs in town that still smoke, and that
Right.
smoke doesn't go away just because they have some air cleaners,
No,
so.
that's correct. But apparently, you're right. What you inhale is the tobacco and the smoke, but what is
Exactly.
exhaled apparently is supposed to be water vapor.
Don't we already have some vaping lounges in town?
We have at least one that I know of.
It's,
We
We've got-
approved one a few years ago.
Was it one time one on Grand Avenue and another one,
There's one still
Like
at the
on
north
North
end,
Washington
north
Street.
of Washington, it's on Grand at the north end of
just it's a
Washington.
different form?
I mean, I appreciate having more business in town. I'm concerned about the existing folks that live there and don't want to create a problem, but he's the landlord, and that's up to them to figure out.
Right. Like I said, I reached out to the tenants. They didn't seem to have a problem. Really wish that they had come to the public hearing, but
well, in your, all your write-up, you had the one business owner from,
NetQuest.
NetQuest,
NetQuest that
Yes.
did come and talk about health concerns. Can you go over what that conversation entailed and
Sure.
the end result of it?
he had some concerns because of the tattoo shop that was across the alley there originally. He has since moved over onto Washington, but the gentleman that owns NetQuest was concerned more about the illegal use of marijuana in the back of the shop after dark. It's a police matter, I guess. There'll be no, obviously, I mean, there's not going to be any marijuana in the shop, so. But he was convinced that, because it has gone away, obviously, that whether the police has increased their patrol or whatever the reason, that I think he smelled marijuana smoke once or twice and had some issues with that, but apparently that's
tattoo
gone
shop?
away.
Tattoo.
Okay, so, yeah, we don't.
Right.
Any other questions? What is the will of the commission?
I move to approve the, excuse me,
Special use permit?
consideration of special, the special use permit allowing a tobacco shop in the Central Commercial District of Junction City, Kansas.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Commissioner Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Commissioner Underhill,
yes,
Mayor Landis,
Yes.
Commissioner Albritton,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is consideration of the release of the grant per the development agreement with Camso Manufacturing USA.
I want to correct, I made an error in my narrative. They do have 20 employees now. I mean, I said did not, but the computer added words.
The computer. Darn it.
Sorry, yeah.
Hired her 20.
Mr. Landis, City Commissioner, City Staff, Mickey Fernardine with the Junction City Economic Development Group. So we have a development agreement with CAMSO that we put together last year when we recruited them to come to the community. Part of that development agreement is when they have fulfilled, they've had 20 employees for a period of at least 30 days by June 30th of this year, then JC First, which contributed part of the funding for the incentive package, and the city of Junction City would then hit the next phase for the incentive package, which is $100,000 for Junction City First and $187,500 for the city of Junction City. I was contacted by the HR director about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and they were concerned about the agreement because they are very, obviously very interested in making sure they follow the letter of their agreement. They were at 21 employees, just shy of their 30-day time period, and as we all know, sometimes happens when you're hiring people and starting up a company. One person didn't make it through a random drug test, and another person decided to resign. So then the HR director called and said, okay, now we have somebody that we're about to hire. We'll be back in the spirit of the agreement, but I'm very concerned because we'd like to keep moving forward. At that time, I contacted Leon Osborne, who's the chair of Junction City First, Mr. Dinkle and Mr. Landis as mayor and city manager, and said, with the intent of the agreement very close, is it okay if we move forward with this next phase? And so that's what I'm here for tonight, to see if we, now, Junction City First meeting was a week ago, and the board voted to an agreement, we're complete agreement, and voted to go ahead and fund the second phase of their grant, which is the $100,000. So it's just now tonight requesting the city to see if you'd move forward as well. Now, there's another phase after this for the 40 employees, and that would be later in the year, and they know that they have to meet that as well. But right now what we're concerned about is this, actually this would be the second phase. First phase of the agreement was only JC First, and they passed that very early on, so.
But all the money will funnel through the city. So last fall, we did $100,000 as per agreement. We received a check from JC First, and we passed it on to CAMSO then, that we paid CAMSO using those funds. This is 287.5. $100,000 come from JC First, 187.5 from us. This was discussed last spring. If you make the argument that we didn't give it now, the agreement does have, they would get the full 375 at a later date, the 40. But I concur with Mickey on here that I think they're making the efforts, or the company is getting, they're doing some production now.
Right, I can give you an update on that, so.
Okay.
So they have one plant, they have one piece of equipment that is in the plant now and running and making treads. Because it is only one piece of equipment at this point, and they're using that kind of as their experimental to make sure that they're getting up to production standards. That particular piece of equipment is running anywhere from 8 to 10 rolls a week, and that is going down to their Emporia plant to feed their line, which is overtaxed as it is, partially why we're getting the plant here. But it is going very well. They are also in the process of getting more equipment in, more more setup done in the manufacturing facility. Obviously, that is their first concern, is to get themselves ready to manufacture product, because that's what they need to do for their suppliers. Then, probably around November or December, when you really wouldn't want to be having your offices in the freezer, all the front offices for HR, management, administration will move back to the freezer section of the plant, and will be housed there while they redo the entire front of the whole front of the plant, like we had discussed with them in the beginning. So that's when they're scheduled to do that. It's just more important to them that they get equipment and rigging done and their facilities up in production. So they're doing that currently. They are at 20 employees now. They are still hiring, and they're still very excited about Junction City. They do have 2 employees that are looking at the lots that we'd worked with them on, so that's exciting to hear as well. And they are still in process. You may all be aware of the fact that they were purchased by Michelin Corporation. They are still in process of trying to figure out what exactly the title on the front of the building will be. Will it be XX by X? Or they want to keep the CAMSO name because that is a very, very well-known product in the market. But they also are going to have a Michelin name put on it, which is to our advantage as well. So,
Just so everyone understands, the agreement the city did with them, the next window is 187.5, on or before December 31st of 2020.
2020.
So if when they obtain 40 employees, if they attain 40 employees this fall, we would pay the higher, and they maintain them for a month, the 187.5. But they have to window until December 31 of next year.
Right.
As everybody knows, they're making the ag line here. Large Challenger tractors, those in the ag industry. Tracks are becoming more and more popular over time because less soil compaction. My cousin who farms in Western Kansas just bought a tractor, and they say it's amazing. And so that technology is going to go on, and so if you get out in the field on a day that's a little less wet than normal, like muddy, that's the problem because the weight distribution and
Spreads the
everything
weight
else.
out, yeah.
And the compaction thing and the no-till, there's been tracks on tractors for 30 years now, but the industry is really moving that way, and I think we got the company in our community that leads the world in the market. We knew that, and they bring them in here, and I think that's good for our community.
Well, that was the whole purpose of Michelin purchasing them, is they wanted to get into this market, and this was not a market that they were in. So, to me, that's an indicator for us as well. If that quantity of a company wants to own this one, then we've got a pretty good product. So.
Well, I think they definitely met the spirit of the agreement, and, a couple things happened right toward the deadline, but they've been able to find some good people, so I'm fine with it. So I think it's a great asset for our community, and we're glad to have them here. So
Great.
I think it's only going to get better.
I would recommend the motion in that to release the $287,500 to CAMSO
Corporation.
Corporate, their title, CAMSO Manufacturing USA Ltd, with the acknowledgement that $100,000 will be received from Junction City First.
Yeah, and what we did last time is we write you the check from JC First, send it to the city, and then you cut the check for the full amount. So, correct, Leon? Right.
So moved.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second. Is there any further discussion or comment? All in favor of the motion, respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much. I'll extend your nice comments to their leadership. Thank you.
Next item is consideration of ordinance S3209, approving Sundown Salute at Heritage Park and surrounding areas, and the authorization of sale and consumption of and possession of enhanced cereal malt beverages.
Mayor and Commissioners, this goes back a year ago when we were reviewing some of the alcohol stuff when former city attorney was here yet. For years, of course, the city has been allowing alcohol or beer sales or C&B sales on the street for Heritage Park, the whole bit. Probably weren't hitting the legal issues, so when we redid some things, so every time when you have an event where you sell alcohol or certain beer, or enhanced, as we're calling them, in public streets, public places, it comes to the city commission to get an ordinance in place. We did this a year ago. It's just simply repeating what we did a year ago. They have to map in there. And again, what we did for years, I don't know if it was right or not, no blood, no foul, But this way, we are following, and just one of those things that we improve on as we move forward.
Questions?
I make a motion to approve ordinance number S 3209, approving sundown salute at Heritage Park and surrounding areas and authorizing sale, consumption, possession of enhanced cereal malt beverages.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion or comment? All in favor of the motion? Roll call vote.
Commissioner Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Commissioner Underhill.
Yes.
Mayor Landis.
Yes.
Commissioner Albritton.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Yes.
Carries 5-0. Next item, consideration of resolution 2893, authority to award contract for the West 8th Street and Eisenhower Drive Trail connections and commitment of city funds.
Mayor Landis and Commissioners, as you know, the city a couple years ago applied and was awarded a grant to continue the walking trail. As you know, right now it quits or starts or quits at 8th and Rucker. As you know, this will extend it east to Eisenhower. We'll work through that residential area and then pick up at 5th and Eisenhower, head south in the park across to basically the Devon Center, and then across the street to Homer's Pond. Great piece. I mean, I think if you just drive down right now on the present walking trail, used immensely and just a great improvement. This will be the same thing. This project here, since it was a TA or traffic enhanced or TE project, excuse me, transportation enhancement funds. They used to be called ICE-T. I still go back to that. But T funds, and is that the state is paying for a certain amount. They did the bids. There was 3 bids. They recommend that we accept the low bid with them, approve to accept the low bid, and then our commitment of $257,000 for the project. And they are also paying for part of the engineering as well. So, and the engineering they'll be working with is called Valley. And actually, they handled the project. We will write them a check for the funds of $257,000. And we have those funds available through our different project funds. We can use about $60,000 special highway if we need to. We can also take it out of our federal funds exchange as well as other transportation funds we have. So we have it covered. We've been talking about this for 2 years. So I think a great improvement for the community to it really fits in with what we talked about walking before this community. So just a great thing. But we need this resolution to approve that we approve that bid, and we'll have the matching funds in place. They have to lock this bid down, I believe, next week sometime. So.
Questions?
We don't know when the work's going to be done. It's going to be done, they will start sometime.
Early start date is July 2019. Late start date is March 2020. Got a wide range.
Wow.
Start sometime.
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve resolution number R 2893, authority to award contract for the West 8th Street and Eisenhower Drive Trail connections and commitment of city funds.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, respond by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Move on to Commissioner comments. Commissioner Brown?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Albritton?
All I have is just want to give a encouragement to everyone to try to get out to Juneteenth this Saturday. That's a very, very good event. I know the committee has done a lot to get everything squared away for that event. Also, good to see our former Commissioner Jim Sands. I know he heads up that committee, so it's always a good thing. Always good to see you, Ms. Snipes. One step at a time with this proclamation, we can get something done here. So. That's all I have.
Very well, thank you. Vice Mayor? Any
I'll
comment?
go ahead and refrain until next meeting.
Okay, very well. Now, you're not deeding any of your time to Commissioner Fitzgerald, is that correct? Say yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Fitzgerald,
Commissioner
please.
Brown, are you deeding me? Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of quick things. So starting next week on Fort Riley is Victory Week, so they'll have a lot of activities going on Fort Riley all week. A lot of competitions, stuff like that, banquets, some different events at the division headquarters. One of the things next Wednesday, June the 12th, the Military Affairs Council and the Military Relations Combined Luncheon will be at Raleigh Conference Center, so normally we have a breakfast, and Fort Raleigh, or Manhattan will have a lunch. This is our combined one for the year. So that'll be at, again, at Raleigh Conference Center, June the 12th at 11:30. If you're interested in going to that, you need to call the chamber at 762-1976 and get your reservation in and payment and all that good stuff like that. Also coming up, I know it's a little bit later in the month, and I'll probably mention again at the next meeting, but on Friday, the 28th of June at 10, will be the Fort Riley post-retirement. That's where we get to learn the soldiers that attend that are retiring, how many of them choose Kansas and our Junction City community to stay in after they retire out. Okay, so I'm sharing the military things because I sit on the Military Affairs Council as the chair of that, so I'm pretty involved in the military in that sense. One of the things I also like to share is I believe we talked about the last meeting, but this is coming up on Saturday, June 15th. It's our summer kickoff. If you want to learn a lot about hip hop, there's activities for the children. It's very family oriented, so you can learn about hip hop. The kids can learn how to do hip hop. It'll be on 7th Street between Jefferson and Washington. That'll be all blocked off. Starts at 10 o'clock. Some of the activities over at the Dorothy Bramlage Library, and then at the Opera House at 11 o'clock. And then that evening around 6 p.m., we have a stage out there in this group, this duo, a married couple. They're called the Reminders. They'll be doing some hip hop, and you might have a chance to get up on stage, Mayor, and do a little dance with them. And it's our way of kicking off the summer here in Junction City, and we're really hoping to continue to have these kind of events every year in our community. So. Last thing I'd like to say, if you haven't been downtown Junction City in a while, between 6th Street and 7th, I think the hanging baskets are looking good. And Ed, I think you're a worker for, make sure to help keep those watered, but they are looking really nice. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Well, if anyone hasn't had the opportunity yet, the Junction City Brigade baseball team is 2-1. Had a very exciting game last night. They were down by 6 runs or 5 runs in the bottom of the ninth, and they came back and won. So that was a very exciting game. The field looks great. We've heard nothing but great compliments about the project that we did between the city and the county and the Bramlage Foundation. It was just wonderful. So come out and support the brigade. About a year ago, I brought up a proposal for the Junction City Land Bank to look at USD 475 employees. They could have access to a land bank lot to try and encourage more teachers to live local. Pretty much anyone in the district. It kind of went over like a lead balloon, but I think it's time for us, because there was a lot of kind of pushback from existing homeowners that were paying specials and so on. I think it's time to kind of look at that again. So I'd like to talk about that sometime at a land bank meeting. I'd like to change it a little bit this time, though, is that we would sell the lots for $1,000 instead of $0. That way that covers the cost for the listing agent. And we can move forward, so there's no direct cost to the city for that. But I think that's something for us to really consider. We have so many lots, and I wish we were going to sell 200 of them the first month, but we're not going to. But if we can sell even a handful and kind of get the ball rolling, and maybe that helps the school district hire better teachers and things like that, I think that's a good thing. I don't think we can lose here at all by doing this. So I'd like us to really consider this maybe at our next land bank meeting. Last thing, Mrs. Snipes, thank you for being here tonight. I greatly appreciate what you and your organization are doing. It's taken so much courage and compassion, which you obviously have. There is no place for gun violence anywhere, and unfortunately it's all too common in this world today. But I appreciate your courage of stepping forward and creating awareness about that. So thank you very much. I'm done.
Thank you. Not a whole lot. Working on the agreement with the school district on the development agreement. I'll probably get a draft out this week to the commission on the agenda. I think we've maybe worked a lot of details out. Chief Johnson and I met with him this morning. A lot of issues with the building permit issues, but I think we've worked those out as well. Our building permits, and everybody wonders why we have building permits and inspection and everything else. One of our jobs as a city is to provide for the well-being and the safety of the people of our community. Police department does on a daily basis, fire department does on a daily basis. Ray's department tries to, work on streets so and do all the things we do for the citizens. And the inspections and everything else we do and requirements have a purpose and a place, not only for the people today, but for the people 10 years from now, 15 years from now. When you build a building, it's hopefully still going to be used 40 years from now. And so if we can ensure that it's safe and good for our community, I think that's an important thing to do. And I think we're moving to that direction, should be in good shape. I do want to pass out one quick note tonight. Rusty Varnado, our special projects manager, his son was hurt in a car accident this afternoon along with his girlfriend. Rusty's son the girlfriend's being moved to Topeka, but Rusty's son has they're waiting on a CT scan, but broken collarbone and some concussion issues. But just send our thoughts and prayers out to Rusty and his family.
Thank you. Mr. Stites?
We do have some litigation that's been with 2 former employees. It looks like it's been resolved, settled, and claims will be basically given up. However, I don't want to go into too many details until it's final because they haven't done the stipulation of dismissal yet. But we're resolving that, as well as this week I'm also filing a brief and an appeal from district court from one of our DUIs here in municipal court. So it's been a very litigious month.
Okay. Ms. Miller?
Just a couple of things. We've been working hard on preparing the budget for the upcoming budget workshops. And then the other thing I have is we attended a flood meeting today with all the awesome people who come together to try to be prepared as possible. Hopefully we won't need it. I did give you copies of some of the information we received. They are releasing, 4,000 cubic feet, which is a good start, and we'll just keep our fingers crossed that that's enough. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Melton?
Nothing.
Chief Reese? Thank you. Chief Johnson? Mr. Ibarra?
One thing, Mr. Mayor. We did, from KDOT, we did receive, last Friday, we received our federal exchange funds for $239,240. So
Excellent.
we got some monies in our coffers for taking care of some of our projects. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I know there's been a lot of people in the community fussing about our streets, but we're finally getting a break on the weather, so now our guys can actually get out there and get going on them. So just hang with us. Be patient. Mr. Lazier.
If I could, I'd like to give you guys just a quick update on the tennis courts at 5th Street, the ones we had resurfaced last year in mid-August. As you probably recall, the contractor didn't do what we call a satisfactory job. I've had that contractor out several times. We can't come to agreements on what we want to do. I have been able to reach another contractor in Kansas that I feel confident in that can actually perform the repairs and do the work. Mr. Britton has helped me with that as far as notifying the original contractor. Their labor warranty is 1 year, and there's no reason to wait the whole year. We're just going to go ahead and move forward because they've been unresponsive to us, the original contractor, as far as doing it. And if you recall, the project, we withheld $10,000 on the original payment, and so the quote I have now to get it replaced or repaired is like at $12,000. So a little bit of a bad move on our part, picking the wrong contractor, but I think these folks can do a good job. You don't know. And the warranty is, only as good as the contractor.
Exactly.
So that's all I had.
And then you're sending out other bids for the other courts as well?
Yes, I'll be releasing those here probably next week.
Okay.
Yeah, potentially. If this bidder were happen to be the same bidder, it might even be beneficial. The guy that gave us the bid to repair the concrete 5th Street ones, if he could bid on those two, it might even help him get him here in town at a little better price.
Right, that'd be great.
Thank you.
You guys are working on the Chestnut Roundabout as well?
Concrete's poured, Indian's down. Kind of waiting on Master Landscape now. And actually, they're kind of waiting on us to move some big boulders in there, too.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Youngers. Mr. Gurman.
Nothing, sir. Thank you.
Is there a motion?
Motion to adjourn?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And we're out.
All right.
Thank you.